So here's what you're going to need. First of all, you can do this two different ways, pipe cleaner or wood. I have some started in wood from doweling that I had collected over time. They used to be from a garland, and so I was making them with that. But because not everyone's going to have that, I figured I would show you how to do it with pipe cleaner. You're also going to need some form of glitter if you enjoy glitter. If not, leave it out. Some thread. I'm using this metallic thread. A good sharp pair of scissors. Some bendable wire for your hanger. Some glue sticks and a hot glue gun. A needle and thread, like I mentioned before, and a variety of fabrics. So I have felt. I also grabbed some stretchy velvet just from local Fabricland. This is part of an old blouse, which I thought was really pretty. I'm going to use that today. And you're also going to want to grab some batting or some fill. This is polyfill. It's just sold by the meter at a fabric shop. You can also use the insides of old cushions if you'd like to upcycle. And so first we're going to start out by making the stem of the mushroom. And here I'm just folding it into thirds. I have two pipe cleaners here, and I'm just going to fold them and twist them so that they are essentially adhered together. So then we're going to wrap this so that it's covered and a little bit chunkier. And you'll see I have it a little bit longer because you can always trim the extra, and we're going to use our hot glue gun and just kind of roll the pipe cleaner into the felt. I found this to be the most effective way. I have made them a few different ways, but I found this to be the simplest. And I love felt on the stem because it feels really natural and earthy. So you can see here I'm just rolling it towards myself, keeping it pretty tight. I mean, the whole point of mushrooms is that they're natural looking and organic, and they can be a little bit wonky because that's more interesting. At least in my house it is. Just gonna seal it all the way up tight, and you can cover this in fabric if you prefer, or wool, or part of an old sweater. I mean, it's really up to you because there's a million different ways. And I'm just trimming it in more of an organic shape, so I don't have just a straight line all the way down. I just rounded the edges a little bit, and then I'm making sure to glue it all the way down. So you'll want to just trim off the extra to your liking. Then we're going to grab a piece of our scrap, I guess we'll call it, and we're going to just trim it so that it fills in the bottom and it's more of like a solid stem tube. So there we have it. Simple stem to our mushroom. It's the first step, and now we're going to choose the kind of underneath, or the shape of the mushroom top, we'll call it. And for this, I'm just grabbing a more structured piece of felt. We're going to cut out a circle. This can be any size circle. You can have a huge top to your mushroom. You can have a little cutesy one if you want. And I'm making a little circle, and then you'll see I'm going to cut it up the center, and that is going to allow me to fold it into kind of the cup shape of a mushroom. So once I have that the way that I would like it, I'm going to glue it up together just to fold and press. There's no wrong or right to this as long as you get a general shape. This is kind of the structure of the top of the mushroom. Perfect. So just test fitting. Looks pretty good. Alright, so now I'm going to take my silk or my polyester, whatever we're going to call it, I'm not quite sure the fabric content, and this is going to be the inside kind of like folds of the mushroom and the underneath. So I chose just a really thin fabric, and basically we're going to gather it so that we can put it over top of the structure part of the mushroom there, and that's going to be like the underneath. So I'm going to just do a simple continuing stitched, so just up down through the fabric. It doesn't have to be perfect. This might take a few minutes to get right with a really flimsy fabric. I do recommend a thinner fabric and not a felt for this, just so that it gathers easily and in the end it's easier to work with. So when you've finished that and tied it off all the way around, you're going to end up with this little, it looks like a hairnet or I don't know, like a fabric bowl, let's say. And I'm just going to squeeze it over top of the mushroom structured cap, so it almost looks like a shower cap. That's the only way I can describe it. You want the peak to be poking out the top, and it's going to be gathered all the way around, and that first of all helps keep it in place while you're stitching the puffier part of the top on, but it also like gathers in the underneath, and it's cuter in my opinion. So then I'm gonna pop a stitch into the center to just hold it in place, and that way it doesn't slide off or move around while you're trying to finish the rest. Learn from my mistakes. This was very helpful. So I'm just going to secure the knot with some glue, pop some glue around the edges to hold the loose fabric in place, and give it a press down. Again, helps it stop from moving. I just think you gotta work smarter, not harder. No one likes fabric moving around while they're trying to do it. Okay, so then we're gonna go on to making the puffy top of the mushroom. This is just, again, some polyester fill. Grabbed it at my local fabric store. It's not very expensive. I grabbed a whole half a meter, but I certainly don't need that. It is helpful if you want to make a bunch. I made quite a few for my tree, and we're going to want 3 different sizes. So one to be almost the same shape as the mushroom cap itself, and then smaller as you go up. So a medium size, and then really small one for the top. Kind of gives that cone shape that mushrooms have, but again, you can do flatter ones, you can make them really pointy and do lots of layers. Again, it's really up to you, so do what you like. Pop some hot glue on here, hold them all in place. This really helps again when sewing. Everything is a series of events to make it so that it's not hard to stitch the top on, to be honest. So then I've grabbed this kind of like reddish brown fabric. It's a stretch velvet, or almost like corduroy but velvet, and you want to have it roughly the size of the top, not too big because you're going to squish your polyfill down and it's going to make it nice and taut, almost like a macaroon. Alright, so now comes the time we're going to hold this. I like to hold it almost like a hamburger, squishing down the edges, and with my needle and thread I'm just going to do a blanket stitch. And a blanket stitch is essentially where you go in both sides, and when you're coming back out, pulling out the top, you're going to kind of create a loop and swoop back through the loop. I'm going to show you here. So down, and then you'll see that there's a loop between the two, and I'm just going to pop my needle in there and close it up. And there's nothing overly special about this, but it does seem to keep the sides a little bit more neat and tidy. I did find that this metallic thread was a pain in the butt to work with after a while. It was really catching and snagging, so do as I say, not as I do, but it did add a little bit of bling. Alright, so once you've stitched all the way around, you shouldn't be able to see any more polyfill. Getting right to the very end. I made about 8 of these the other day and my fingers were pretty tired, so it took me a little longer than normal. But I think they look extra special and very handmade when you stitch it yourself. So once you're done that, you have this little fabric puck like a cookie. And what's next? Alright, so we're gonna attach our stem. For me, I like to have the little fringes on the mushrooms. It's almost like a little tutu or a little skirt, so I just grabbed some extra felt that I had here, made some little snips in it, and this is going to be my little skirt. As many layers and textures I could grab was ideal for me, so I'm going to trim off the extra. And I'm just going to glue this around in a spot that I feel is appropriate. Size-wise, again, mushrooms come in all shapes and sizes, so however you make these, there's no wrong way. It's just a fun activity and being creative. And there she is, our little fringe. Alright, so love it or hate it, glitter is fun at the holidays. It's a huge mess, and my living room is a hot disaster right now full of glitter, so I'll be vacuuming later, but I do think it looks really pretty on the tree when there's some glitter, and the lights really pick it up. So I'm grabbing some matte Mod Podge here. I like the matte stuff because then you can't tell that it's actually glossed on, and I'm being very generous with it, as you can see, and just spreading it all over with my finger. I was going to use hot glue, but I was worried about it being too clumpy, so Mod Podge was a better solution. And make sure it gets really saturated. I decided to put glitter on the top of the stem. I thought it was a nice block of holiday, I don't know, cheer. Okay, so then we're going to just roll it in the glitter, make sure it's fully coated. You can go back and add some later, let it dry, add some more, whatever you prefer. Add no glitter. Again, it's totally up to you. So once I had that done, I wanted to glue on the top of the fringe, and I used the hot glue for this because I really wanted a little bit of a chunkier effect right there, a little bit more like it was dripping down. Finishing touches and put it all together. So we're going to add a generous dollop of glue into the interior side of the mushroom cap, and because you really want to have a secure topper, I'm just going to pop it in there and hold it nice and firm while it sets. For the topper. So I'm using this really bendable gold wire that I picked up at Michael's. I believe it was $3.99. It was in like near the cash register, so just like a holiday promo deal of the day, something like that, and I'm twisting it together. I like them to be pretty long so that I don't like have to worry about it not fitting on the branches of the Christmas tree. And here I'm just putting a tiny bit of glue to just affix it, and then you'll see that we'll add more in a little bit. So once it's affixed, I'm going to go and add a generous amount of glue to the top of my mushroom. I often find that on ornaments, the spot where the attachment is for the hanger is never clean and tidy and looks cute. So in this case, I'm adding more glue and then glittering the top, almost like it's the top little sparkles of the mushroom, but it's extra secure in there. And honestly, when the light hits it on the tree, it just like sparkles so much. I love it. So it's extra whimsical. You can probably do other options for this, glass beads or anything like that if you'd like, or gems or an old brooch you could take apart and use it. But for me, this is what I had on hand, so this is the best option. And just go nuts with it, as much or as little as you like, and that really helps hold your hanger in there as well. And there you have it, your very own handmade mushroom ornament. They look fantastic on the tree. Please share this DIY with friends who you think might love to try their hand at crafting their own ornaments this year. Thanks so much for watching.